Hey everybody, welcome inside the studio for another horror review. My name is Tyler Bell, and today we are talking about A Good Marriage, the 2014 adaptation of the story A Good Marriage by Stephen King, directed by Peter Askin, and starring Joan Allen, Anthony LaPaglia, Kristen Connolly, and Stephen Lang. Let's just hop into it. So, this is, I would say, one of the better Stephen King adaptations I've ever seen, and I've never heard of it before. I found this randomly searching through Amazon Prime. I found this randomly searching through Amazon Prime. Watched it on a weeknight, thinking it was going to be probably pretty bad, and it turned out to be actually fairly good. A Good Marriage follows the very basic plot of a woman, Darcy, played by Joan Allen. She finds out that her husband's a serial killer. And I don't know how she didn't notice, because literally they cannot talk to this guy at any point in this movie without him saying something serial killer-y. But after she finds out he's a serial killer, and these are two people that have been married for a very long time, 25 years. Their daughter's about to get married. He's, I think, approaching retirement. They have a nice little happy big house type life. He's fucking weird. He's a weird dude. That is Anthony LaPaglia, just literally just going in on this character. I loved this actor. And he seemed like he was having such a good time, as opposed to Joan Allen, who seemed like she was literally just trying to just torture herself to get this performance out on screen. The entire cast is very, very small. The plot is very, very, very thin. It's very basic. I'm surprised they got, a full hour and a half, I think, out of this. 102 minutes. So, yeah. A little over an hour and a half, as a matter of fact. Almost an hour 40. So this movie's as long as Pet Sematary, 2019. And more interesting, better, and much more competent. I loved it. I don't think this is the best Stephen King adaptation out there, but it's definitely one of the top ones. And they really got what makes some of these Stephen King short stories good. I know I haven't talked that much more about the plot, but there's literally almost nothing else to say. Most of it is Darcy Anderson mulling over the implications of 25 years of marriage to a man who's a serial killer. We find out that Bob has raped, tortured, and murdered at least 12 women in the area. I think they're somewhere Maine-y, New Hampshire, somewhere very white, somewhere very white and very northeastern. That's where they are. And she discovers that he's doing this because she goes into the garage and for some reason goes underneath his workbench and finds the little false bit of a wall that he has where he keeps his Dexter Morgan style trophy kit. In this case, it's a variety of driver's license and library cards, various identity cards for these women. This is all part of an odd thing that he does to his wife, where he leaves notes for her around that are supposed to be like adorable, but fucking aren't. Like one of them is a note left in a box of candy that's like, "Hey, you look like you've put on a few pounds lately, so maybe don't eat these as much." And another one's just like, "You parked your car very oddly." So even the marriage that she's in isn't that healthy. It seems like, but I guess she kind of just waived it because he seems to have a nice job. He afforded her an extraordinarily nice, like, I don't know what you call those kind of things, but it's one of those northeastern type of houses. I guess it would be a colonial, more than likely. Everything up there is colonial something. By the end of the movie, she decides to do something with him. Obviously, it can't end. It is not as they say even in the film, this is not a movie where the wife finds out that the husband's a killer and he ends up chasing her around the house before something happens. There are no knife chases. There is, functionally speaking, almost no blood, no threats of violence. All the real violence happens off screen. There's some good misdirection where you think Maybe someone's going to get killed, maybe they aren't. Blah, 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 blah. But in general, it's very much a character study of Darcy and a character study of Darcy's character study of her husband. And it's a fucking treat. It's a treat. One of my favorite, if not my favorite minor character in this, is definitely Stephen Lang as Holt Ramsey, who delivers the opening narration, which is, I believe, some sort of Bible quote. I don't know. I didn't look it up, but it's, "I fled him down. I fled him down the ages. I fled him down through the labyrinthine corridor." And this is this whole big thing. And it's so, it is the kind of dialogue that people cut out of Stephen King adaptation movies, and they left it in for all of his scenes. And it's so alien and weird that it's unbelievably good. A shade shy of perfect, I would even say. The entire time he's on the screen, which is not very much, he's a sick, aging detective. You come to find out that is hunting down Beatty, the press-given name of the serial killer, who is the alter ego of Bob Anderson. And by the end of the movie, he at least locates them to a degree, although he is actually in the background of multiple scenes, kind of just staring at Bob Anderson from a distance, which I don't quite understand. Ultimately, I would say that this movie is not perfect, and I think most of that is just because the plot is extraordinarily thin, and a lot of the good parts of the movie do rest on the character performances, which are great. Joan Allen does not phone it in. Anthony LaPaglia is just wonderfully sinister as Bob Anderson. You can tell he's having a good time being both a shitty husband and a secret serial killer. The downsides to it is because the plot is so thin, there's very little that goes on that's particularly interesting in the later half of this. It's kind of some light misdirection. Will she let him go? Will she? Won't she? And she doesn't, obviously. Otherwise, there would be no plot. And there are no real on-screen murders. Because of the lack of violence, which I feel like is probably from the adaptation, there's probably not much. This is adapted from Stephen King's short story collection, Full Dark, No Stars, which I have listened to. I don't remember this one. I think there's 4 stories on it, and this is the one that I could not remember. I think just because it's so basic, it is a story you've heard before, and the conceit that it's not going to be the husband chasing her around with a knife is kind of the entirety of it. So ultimately, I think in summation, I would say check it out if you got a second. If you're a massive Stephen King horror fan, if you've read this story, this might be extra interesting to you. I don't see this drawing in very much of the casual audience, and I feel like a lot of people that are hardcore horror fans, if you want to see blood and guts on screen, if you want a good scare, this is not your thing. And honestly, if you're into high-level thrillers, if you like something like Gone Girl that's a little bit more publicly accessible, probably stick with movies like that, because this is very much in the thriller range. It's not much of a horror movie, although it is, because it's Stephen King, packaged in with other horror movies on streaming services. That's how we found it, and in the end, it wasn't. So my grades for competency, I would say a fucking 9 on this. It's especially considering you can kind of tell that this was maybe a low or no budget. It gave me that feel that people really got to bring it out. Everyone knew what they were doing when they made this film. The intro made me think it was going to be one of the most fire films ever. If you watch it and you just see the intro, you're probably going to want to watch the rest of it. It's in black and white. It's just the recitation of that prayer while a man's driving around crying. It's fucking beautiful. Fucking beautiful. Couple minutes, and I wish the rest of it was that good. Actually, I'm going to bring the quality down to probably about a 9 or probably about an 8. There are a lot of scenes where I think the director's intention was to let the characters really bleed out onto the film, but because of some weak reverse shot work, especially in this pretty long scene that takes place between them in bed after the initial revelation. The shots themselves aren't that great. The lighting's pretty much okay, but you don't really get as far into it as you probably should be. And it might just be something that's kind of hard to do. Obviously, if you went for more sinister shots and stuff, it might be taking a little bit away from the from the actors' performances. I just feel like some additional angles or some different angles, anything but shot reverse shot in that scene would have probably been a little bit better, a little bit more dynamic, and a little bit more fun. So, total, and there's some other problems like that. So total competency, 8. Solid film. Nothing extraordinary. To get to a 10 in that, you'd have to do, some crazy ass Kubrick stuff. An 8's fine. An 8's perfect. You made the movie. The movie's there. It's on the screen. I know everything that happened. All of the shots are in focus. There are no weird, jarring, bad special effects. The one stunt, I think there's one stunt total in this. Maybe there's actually probably 4, but there's one stunt that's in this, and it's executed pretty perfectly. And so yeah, an 8. For enjoyability, I would say a 6, maybe a 7, probably a 6. It's pretty good. It's not very revolutionary in its own genre. It is pretty by the numbers. I would like to give it, I think most of this I give it to not because of the Stephen King story itself, which is take it or leave it, but the actors and actresses in this film just put it all the fuck on screen. There's not very many of them. The total named cast is 7 people. But even some of this, all of really the minor characters, except maybe her kids, are perfect in this. And I love them. But Joan Allen, total 10 out of 10 on Joan Allen, 10 out of 10 on Anthony LaPaglia. Wonderful. As far as is this horror, I would give this a 1 on the 0 to 5 scale. Just at a 1. There is some feelings of threat, some feelings of bad, but this is very, very much more of a flat out a thriller. It's not very scary. I don't think it's really even intended to scare you. I think it's more made you to make you think, and probably to make women that are in her age group probably say oh, I wonder what would happen if Bill was one of these serial killers. Oh Lord. But yeah, no, just a 1. Definitely just a 1. Not very much of a horror movie. So yeah, final grade, pretty good to decent film. Definitely a hidden gem as far as Stephen King adaptations go. I have not a lot of good things to say about Stephen King adaptations in general. I'm a Stephen King fan, have been for years, and I have seen a lot of Stephen King adaptations. This is definitely one of the better ones. As far as an adaptation goes, not as overall quality of the movie. Anybody if you're a giant fan of things like It specifically, or I don't know, possibly Salem's Lot, this isn't going to be your cup of tea. If you didn't like The Shining, you will not like this film. If you don't like talking, if you don't like character interaction, this isn't your kind of movie. It's definitely not going to be something that you put on beers and have a blast with, unless you are in a very, very specific mood. If you're with a group of women, if you're a lady with a group of girls, and if you want to crack open a bottle of wine though and watch this, you might actually have the fucking time of your life. I'm not even kidding. My fiance spent probably the entire movie just going, "No, the fuck he didn't." So yeah, that's gonna be the end of the review. If you liked it, if you agree with me, have you seen this movie? Have you seen A Good Marriage? I don't think you have. I don't think almost anybody has, but they should definitely check this kind of semi-lost, semi-gem out if they get a second. Again, my name's Tyler Bell. I run the Westside Fairytales horror and dark fiction podcast. You think, hey, Tyler, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You're an idiot. I bet you couldn't make shit. Hey, I do make shit. Go and listen to it and judge me on whether or not it's any good. That's all at westsidefairytales.com. Leave a comment down below if you hate this. Blow me up. Throw me a like. Throw me a dislike. I don't mind. And until next time, as always, stay safe out there.